You have kind of a legendary real estate investing career. You started, I think, less than 20 years ago buying single-family homes when you were in law school. And now you've got a verified empire across dozens of cities and states. How did you do that?
I'm not entirely sure, but I do take a key from the Nike, kind of just do it. And I think if I look back, it wouldn't have turned out this well. But I think there was a lot of luck involved as well, to be perfectly
well,
fair.
And rates, right? Because you have, it strikes me during that period, a lot of zero interest rate time. Obviously, that's not what you're paying on capital, but would it be more difficult now in this environment?
100%. And so, when I was starting out building little single-family homes north of San Antonio, you get a loan at a little over, 3.5% interest only on construction. That makes a big difference. And when you have rates that are so low for too long, arguably, and raised too fast, too high, you end up having a little bit of a problem, which I think is fueling some of the other problems, especially some you're having here in your home city.
Are you alluding to the pricing problems?
I am. It's a pricing problem, but it's also a systemic problem. Right now, real estate is about people, right? So right now we're in a transition phase and a reestablishing of the leveling of real estate in general. We're seeing it in office. We're seeing rates stabilize, cap rates, et cetera. And when you start having bigger geopolitical issues that come into the finance of business, you start to have other problems that you need to work through.
I want to go back a little bit. Matt was telling me a lot about your involvement in bringing more of the financial industry down to Dallas. Yeah. I've been spending a lot of time watching Dallas as well because it's one of Goldman Sachs's biggest offices already. Now, if you were a betting man, what do you think happens? When do you think Dallas could actually be a bigger office than New York City for Goldman Sachs? Do you think that's happening?
I think it's the right question. And certainly what it means is this is the decentralization or the beginning of the decentralization of this kind of monopoly New York has had on capital markets. All money has to, come through New York at the end of the day. And I think this move from Chicago into Texas is making a big discussion. But Goldman has been in Dallas, since the late 60s. JP Morgan is one of their largest offices. And so, but this particular moment is symbolic as well as it is systemic. Because with 5,000 in-office employees right there in the center of what we've dubbed now Y'all Street, that sheer gravity of people alone and the ability to go public on the stock exchange, clearly Texas has shown, its resilience and its business-friendly capabilities, I think more so than any state in the United States. I'm not biased, clearly. But now to be able to actually go public and access the global markets, now you're talking about something that's truly once in a generation.
Does this push, well, if we get Zoran Mamdani as the mayor here, right? And it's a pretty good chance since he won the Democratic nomination. Sure. Does that push more of Wall Street towards Texas, or do they continue to flow as they did during the de Blasio years and, Trump's SALT cap to West Palm?
I think without a doubt, the greatest winner in that election, if it comes to pass, as you said, is Florida. Second is Texas. Because the frustration levels are already high, stress levels are already high from a variety of different areas. You've seen some big real estate owners in town, obviously, be speaking about this, but the free market nature and the capitalistic nature of what makes New York like this beacon for the world, when you start to stifle that light and dim that light, it creates a problem much bigger than simply trying to increase property taxes and freeze rents. This is a very, very slippery slope for what I would argue is the greatest city in the world.
It's interesting. You're talking about the Texas versus Florida kind of competition, if you will, sure, as you watch people potentially move out of New York. What does it mean in terms of what you want to do in terms of your future investments? Now, it's very noticeable that rents in Austin have been cooling. There has been a really glut of supply, if you will. Do you look elsewhere?
We do. I mean, we've invested in 38 cities and 13 states over the years and honed in on Texas because we know it. If you look at the sheer population growth of Texas, the I-35 corridor, which basically connects Dallas all the way down to the Texas-Mexican border. You know, the transits that go on this are so tremendous that we could invest $100 billion just in that corridor, and it wouldn't even be, you know, a drop in the ocean. So for us, like really focusing on the areas where the Teslas of the world are getting pretty cozy, the Oracles of the world are getting cozy, Chevron has been there for a long time. You have 1 out of every 10 Fortune 500 company in the world based in Texas. We think in a place that we know, a place that we understand, a place that we live, a place that we're raising our children, it can be a place that we can not only help build and guide the growth, but also be a participant in the enjoyment of being there.
But at the top of this interview, you mentioned luck played a part in your success. I mean, you've grown this massive empire out of a place that wasn't as hot when you started as it is now, right? Austin just was booming right when you started to invest in it. What's the next Austin? You know, what's the next huge opportunity as you look across all of the cities in your portfolio?
I think it's really the elephant in the room. I think Dallas clearly leads that pack for so many different reasons. I mean, the stock exchange coming by itself, and I think it's been spoken about in a way that really hasn't magnified the importance of the most capitalized public stock exchange in the history of the world coming into Dallas, backed by the BlackRocks of the world, the Citadels of the world. You know, that piece alone, I think we'll look back in 20 years and say, this was so obvious that Dallas was going to become one of the epicenters of the world.
And it's ironic because of Liar's Poker, right? Yeah. At that time, equities in Dallas was not what you wanted to be doing.
Right. Maybe things will change or can continue to change. Now, I do want to switch gears here and ask about the very serious matter that has been going on in Texas as well. The deaths have exceeded 100. Catastrophe in the state with the flooding. How do you feel that the state is handling the issue?
I think Governor Abbott has just proved to be tremendous in so many. And we actually saw, you know, the Pope himself say some very beautiful words for the victims of the flood. I think when something like that happens so quickly, we almost have a little bit of paralysis, as we should as humans when things like this happen that are so catastrophic. They're difficult to wrap your heads around. I mean, our hearts, our prayers go out to all the families. In fact, you know, one of our, you know, dear friends, you know, from high school lost her daughter. And so I think the tensions are still starting to level. But, you know, I can tell you that it speaks to an issue where these types of floods that are happening, for whatever reasoning people believe, I think it does speak to a point where we need to be having deeper discussions about infrastructure. We need to be having deeper discussions about emergency response times. And that might not be the moment now, but I was pleasantly surprised at how human the response was from the Texas government, the legislators, the police and firefighters that, you know, really put their lives at risk very quickly and very instinctually, which really shows you how much, you know, how much love and compassion they're